when you created this, what's the creation process for you? I mean, you decided that this bar,
Yeah.
and you love the idea and the drama. You wanted to do it.
I wanted it to be about a family.
Yeah.
And I wanted, yeah.
Go ahead.
So I thought about a family, and they own a place together, which means people work and live in the same place. I mean, in other words, you go, you live with people, and then you work with them, and then you can't escape them, which is what family feels like. Family is something you can't escape.
But this
it's a
is
relationship you can't get out
Yeah.
of.
This is not Cheers.
No, not at all. Not even close.
I know.
It looks like it if you have the sound off
yeah.
for 2 minutes, and then even with the sound off, you'd be like, "Geez, that's not Cheers at all." It's very, it gets very down. It is funny in moments. It's very surprising and startling in moments. Yeah. So the creative process is like you create the people and the world, and then you see if it writes. If you can sit down and write. And it just flowed. I believed in the people. They felt real to me. So I just wrote. I told their story.
I mean, when you start episode by episode, it just pours out.
Yeah. And some things come out that way, and this one did too. Every episode, I would sit down and I would just be writing, and I put the people in the rooms in my head, and I have them talk to each other, and it's like I'm hearing it, and I'm quickly copying it down, like a stenographer.
Yeah.
Or a court reporter. Is that what a court person is?
Yeah, right. That's
what it feels like. And then when it's over, I stop and I go, "Oh my God, that was crazy." And then I read it and I'm going, "That's pretty good." And then I've got one done.
Okay, but how much editing do you do? I mean, is it pretty much a stream of consciousness when you do it, or do you simply hammer it and like
a few
sculpting,
different things?
like
okay,
sculpting?
A lot of that happens ahead of time. Like that's when I get an episode written. When I sit down and write it, before I write it, I walk around driving myself crazy thinking about it. I do all the carving up here, and I know what's going to happen. I think about what it means in each interaction and what direction it's going to go, and I think about all that for a long time. It's like being pregnant, and then finally I just regurgitate it onto the page. And after that, maybe right before we shoot, we do a rehearsal for a whole day. We rehearse the show over and over again. And then I'll look at it and go, maybe there's a few things that could change. I usually keep the dialogue all the same. There's an integrity to that, like how you first wrote it, but I might cut and I might add things. But I don't change the little lines inside. I think that feels like tampering.
Your role in this is very much of a guy who listens. He's a listener.
Yeah. I mean, Horace is very quiet, and he doesn't talk much. And part of that is because I wanted to be able to effectively direct the show and do it without.
You didn't want to have many lines?
I didn't want to have a lot of lines. And also, look at the cast. Edie Falco and Steve and Alan and Jessica Lange. These people are all better than me. They're all better actors than me. So,
you're right about that.
Yeah, for sure. So I wanted to just give them a platform and just be there as a sounding board.
But you've been doing some acting. Are you surprised? You seem like a natural.
I mean, I hope I am. I know I own a lot of terrible moments on screen that I can't take back, including on this show. I'm stiff. I'm not really, towards the end of Horace and Pete, the feelings about the show were so real to me. I really felt like Pete was my brother. And so when hard things happened to Pete, I got very upset. And
you feel it because you created.
Oh God, yeah.
See, that's an amazing thing. I mean, you created Horace, and you created Pete, and you created the other characters.
And then I got involved like I was in the family.
Like you were there.
Yeah, when the show, when we shot the last episode, I was I couldn't. It took me a while to recover from it. I never had an experience like that because I didn't have to act. I didn't have to conjure something from my past or figure out how to get there. I was just very upset for real. And all of us, we traded emails, me and Alan and Edie and Steve traded emails saying that we're in withdrawal and that we were upset, that it was hard to walk away from the show. And it was hard how it ended.
Does it have to end?
No, not necessarily, no. But I mean, the season is over. The story that we told is over. It's a 10-part, it's like a 10-act play. That's what Horace and Pete is. It's more like a 10-act play than it is like a series. See, the thing with a series, when you write series television, you have to keep everything intact all the time. You have to keep all the balls in the air. So you can't really have anything big happen or big be said, because then you can't take that back. Every show has to reset. TV has this thing where it kind of shows up your house like a vacuum cleaner salesman, and it makes a mess on the floor, but they got to clean it up before they leave. TV is supposed to leave you the way it found you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that way you'll want to watch it the next week forever. It's a perpetuity thing. But so the idea with this show is to write something where every week it's gonna take a piece out of you. It's gonna leave you a little bit broken. And you'll go like, how the hell did I get to keep doing this? Well, we don't have to keep doing it. We don't have to. I didn't have to make more than 3 if I didn't want to.
What's the level of satisfaction from this? Level of satisfaction from this compared to the other stuff you do? I mean, can you even judge it, weigh it?
No, I
assess it?
can't, because this was so personal, and it felt so real to me, and it was so satisfying.
And a new direction too.
Yeah, brand new thing. That's the thing that's so fun, is to learn a thing you've never done before and then do it really well. I'd never done a show like this. None of us had. Nobody had. I mean, nobody had made a show. It was closer to Saturday Night Live than it was to a sitcom, because we had to throw it together and have it up on the site. We shot it Wednesday and Thursday and had it up on the site Saturday morning. So it was a very quick, and all of a sudden it was in the world.
All the episodes had been written by the time you started shooting.
They've been written, except for we did things about current events, because it was a bar, and I thought, people at bars talk about what's going on in the news, so if they could talk about what was actually in the news, that's why we shot it so close to the air date.
And in February, and you talked about part of the idea behind launching it on the site was to create a show in a new way and to provide it to you directly. And this is a letter you wrote on your site to fans, directly and immediately, without the usual promotion, banner ads, billboards, and clips that tell you what the show feels and looks like before you get there to see it for yourself. And you talk more about as a writer and stuff like that. I wanted to get a sense from you as like, why did you decide to make this leap? Because I'm sure there are a lot of people around you who are saying, "Oh, don't do that, man. You're on cable. You got this. You got a good gig going. Don't."
Well, nobody was saying that because there was nobody around me. I mean, that's why I did it that way.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to try. I wanted to be able to have. I didn't want it to matter if the show hit or not. Like, success for a TV show is very different now, because the moment of success or failure has changed. It used to be like, when it aired, how did it do? How did it do that night? And some shows have died the day after they first air, because that night just didn't hit this expectation according to how much was spent on promoting it and creating it. But now, when you just put something out there, once it's there, it's like you open this tap and you can bring people in at different waves from it. You know, when the show was running, it was doing pretty well, but after it ran, I started going out and promoting it. Then the sales went crazy. It's made far more since it was on, like, on every week, than when it was, you know, since then. But so I wanted to see. But the main reason I did this way was for a dramatic effect for the story.
You have this idea to do Horace and Pete.
So I start writing it, and then I'm reading an article about Edie Falco, and I look at her face in the article, and I go, "You're going to be on my show. I just know it."
You visualize that.
Yes, and then
okay.
I go to the Emmys.
Yes.
And she's sitting by herself with a seat next to her. I don't know Edie. I mean, I've run into her a few times to say hello. I'd sit next to her.
You sat your ass down next to her.
I just saw that chair, and I was like, fuck it, and I sat down.
And what do you say to her?
I said to her, I have a show I'm writing. Steve Buscemi and I are in it together because he had agreed to do it.
Yeah.
And I said, I want you to play that. I wrote a part for you. And then here's the thing. I had also written a part for Jessica Lange. So I walk away from, I tell you.
Going to the Emmys is the best place to cast something.
I told Edie Falco, this is a show. I wrote it for you. Only you can play this part.
Right.
And then I walk away, and Jessica Lange's standing right there. So I go up to Jessica Lange, and I go, "Hey, I have a new show. I want you to be in it. I wrote a part for you." And then I turn around and I see Edie Falco looking at me because she said the exact thing.
She said, "Hey, wait a second. This guy's mental. He's going up to everyone at the Emmys.
Crazy.
He's over there with Weird Al Yankovic asking him, we got to hear what I did." Yeah.
He's had an amazing career.
How did you get Paul Simon to write the theme song for the show?
Well, so like you're talking about the audacity of asking.
Yeah.
So I have this new thing I arrived at, a new method of getting stuff done. I write an email to a guy like Paul Simon. I'd had dinner with Paul Simon once.
Where, at Lauren's house?
No, we went to a restaurant and we met for dinner.
Oh, look at you.
You just met.
Yeah, we had common
Where do you
friends.
go? Nobu?
Yeah, something like that.
Nobu, yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Are you nervous before you have a dinner with Paul Simon?
Yeah, sure, a little bit.
I
Yeah.
would be.
Yeah.
I met him in
his,
the bathroom.
His music is like the world to me.
Me too.
And I used to sing his songs to my daughters before bedtime when I was first divorced.
You
and
must have mangled
figuring it out.
those.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Let me hear you sing Paul Simon.
Yeah,
Oh,
let's hear
geez.
a
I
little
want to
bridge
hear
over
it.
troubled water.
Pretend I'm your daughter.
I can't
And
do
you're
it.
putting me to bed. What song would you sing to your daughter?
The Boxer.
I am just a poor boy.
My story seldom told, I have squandered my resistance on a pocket full of mumbles, such are promises.
I don't want to be a
All
singer,
lies
Dad.
and jest. No, but
Yeah,
I'm singing
right.
to my daughters, and
That's
it's the most
beautiful.
depressing song.
It is. The Boxer is
Yeah, I
so
wouldn't have
depressing.
picked that one.
La la la.
Oh. By the way, Senator Al Franken just tweeted that is a horrible song for you to sing to a kid. And you're a terrible father. Now,
But yes, okay.
yes.
So Paul, I wrote Paul an email that said, I know this is crazy, but I'm making a new show, and I want to ask you to write the theme song and perform it.
Yes.
Because your voice would literally set the tone for the show perfectly.
Yes.
I hope I'm not overreaching.
Of course you are.
And I don't. And I know this is you're very busy. And so I look at the email and I take out. I shouldn't be asking. I take out. I'm overreaching and just leave in. I'm making a new show. I want you to write the song. It would set the
Straightforward.
tone perfectly. That's all. Just ask.
By
Just
the
ask.
way, have you taught us a business lesson today, Louis C.K.? In other words, if you take away, most people would say, I'm not going to bother. I would say, I'm not going to bother Paul Simon. How dare I? You're saying if you ask, you'd be surprised what you could get.
Also, either bother them or don't.
Right.
But don't bother somebody and say sorry for bothering you. Just go ahead and bother them, or don't ask.
And do me a favor, never send me an email like that.
No.
If you, please. I
won't.
have the hardest time saying no.
I
And
know.
the answer is already no.
No, definitely.
Not that you're asking me to do anything.
But yeah, Paul wrote back and said, what the hell? And I went to his studio.
Yeah.
And I spent a day with Paul working on the song and getting it.
And when you
tone
say
right.
working on a song with Paul Simon, you're
Yeah,
telling
no
him
shit.
you're telling him the story.
He's the sweet. So I wrote and sent him all the scripts.
Right.
He read all the scripts first.
Wow.
Yeah.
He takes that seriously.
Yeah, he did.
He doesn't take it lightly. And
No.
What are you doing in the studio while he's recording?
So we talked about it, and he said he gave me some options. Like he played a few things, and he said, "Here's a thing, a guitar riff that I've been working on that I've had for like 10 years.
Wow.
And I've been waiting for a place to put it."
Did you like it?
And he played it for me, and I was like, "That's beautiful."
Right.
The thing I had a hard time with was being constructive at all, because he would play something,
And you go, "What am I
and then
gonna
he'd
do?"
Yeah, I
say,
was
"What do
gonna
you
say,
think?"
how
And
do
I'd be
you
like,
critique him?
"Yeah, it's all great, Paul. I mean, it's all amazing."
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wish I
that's
had
Paul
something
Simon.
helpful.
Yeah, what are you going to do? Say,
Yeah, what do you know?
By the
Well,
way, that's
I'm
a
as-
shitty riff.
As a director, I've had to direct people that are far above my own caliber, but
Right.
they still need direction.
Right.
They need some guidance.
You have in your head what
So I
it's-
have learned. I was able to say, like, here's some suggestions of where this could go.
Did you contribute
And
to the lyrics, or are you, you sit back
no,
on
we
that
talked
too?
for a long time about what it could be about.
Right.
And then he thought he wanted to be Stephen Wright in the song. Stephen
Yeah.
Wright, who sits on the stool, he says he loves Stephen Wright.
Right.
And he said, that character to me, that's the guy I am when I'm singing. And
really?
I said, I love that. So he wrote, that hell no.
I can't even imagine what it's like to sit there while Paul Simon is composing
Yeah.
a song for your show.
Yeah.
Boy, you've come a long
Well,
way
all
from
this-
washing dishes.
I gotta ask, how'd you get Paul Simon to do the theme song?
Well, so Paul Simon, there's a guy who does music for my series Louie on FX, this guy Matt, who he's a very good musician, and he did some session work with Paul Simon. And Paul said to him, "Hey, I really like Louis' series," and because he knew he'd do the music, and he just told him nice things about me. So I asked him for Paul's email, because I wanted to tell Paul Simon, his music is very important in my life. Like, it's a big deal. Mm-hmm. And when I was divorced and starting to have custody of my kids on my own, I would sing them Paul Simon songs. I mean, Simon and Garfunkel, but he wrote them. So to me,
right.
it's not the two of them singing them. They're his songs. So I would sing the songs to my kids, and it was a big deal to me. So I just wrote him a thing saying, I appreciate your work. That's all. And then he wrote back. He was nice. And then we would meet at like SNL things. He's a big friend of Lorne Michaels. So we had dinner one night. And then I had his email. So one day I thought, fuck it, I'm going to write. I wrote him and said, would you please do the theme song for my show?
Amazing.
And he said, yeah, what the hell? And so we did it. I went to his house and his recording studio, and sat and watched him create a song.
Oh, he actually wrote
it? Yeah, he wrote it and played it. And
Did he see all the episodes first?
he read them all first, because they weren't done.
Right.
Yeah, so he read all the episodes that I had. I'd written 8 of them, so he read the scripts. And then he asked me what I was looking for, and like, he was very generous.
Right.
Like, what do you want it to feel like? And he played a few things for me. And he's like, is this okay? I'm like, yeah, it's all amazing. Like, how do I fucking, I'm like, nah, not that world-class guitar.
That one's just okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you do that to Paul Simon? You'll take whatever he hands into you.
That's right.
But that's the ability to just ask. You don't know something until you say
in the end,
somebody,
you
what
might
you
say.
do.
And also, so many people, you don't know what you think. Everybody, it's like the hot girl that nobody asks to the prom. The girl who everybody thinks she's got a date and nobody asks her. It's like the people like that are legendary. He's like, it's a new show, a new thing. Mm-hmm. It's got value to him. Like, yeah, to be asked. Also, it sure doesn't hurt his feelings to be asked something.
True.
Right.
By somebody he likes.
He could have easily said, that's very nice, but I can't do it. And then it would have made him, give him a little cheer.
Do you think you would have asked him if you knew he wasn't a fan of the show? Like if you didn't hear that he knew your show?
I mean, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wouldn't, if I thought of somebody else who I didn't have a connection with, but I knew I could get to. Like, my manager's got one great skill. He's got a few great skills, but one of the best is that he can get anybody's phone number.
Right.
So I tell him, like, I need to reach this person. And then so I'll call them or write them and say, that's the thing I've built over the last few years. I'll go to anybody and ask them to do something. Jesus, Paul Simon making the song for me that made me cry every time I heard it.
And then he shows up in the last episode.
Yeah, he shows up in the last episode, and then the way we used America, Paul and I would become pals at that time, and he told me, he said the sound of silence.
Yeah,
Paul Simon said this to me on your show is really deafening. It's really hard to take. He said, put a little music in there, make it come out of the jukebox.
Yeah,
I said, well, I got to get that music somewhere, and he goes, well, why don't you use your favorite song? And he was being nice because I had told him that America is my favorite song. And I said, can I have it? He said, of course you can have it. He gave me America. The first episode, I knew I want to stop there. And then I thought about saying intermission. I'm trying to remember if I decided that before or after we shot it. I don't remember.
You don't think it was in the script?
Well, also I had been working with Paul Simon with the music.
Yeah, which is awesome.
And he had created, this is how it happened, because I went to his studio and he played some pieces for me and I really liked them, and then he started to shape it into this tune. Then he put on like a scat vocal track where he's just singing and humming and stuff to give a sense of how the vocals will be shaped.
Yeah.
And he sent me home with that on a CD. And he said, if you like this, I'll try to come up with some lyrics that fit that vocal thing. And also he had created this sort of intro of this thing that makes his guitar sound like a harp. And then it goes vroom, and I knew right away that's going to be, you're going to see the Horace and Pete sign, and then the guitar will take you to the show. So he had created that intro that was going to be a musical intro. He and I had already decided there's going to be a musical intro to the show that'll be short, and that the theme song, the entire theme song, would be the tail credits.
Right.
He felt strongly about that. He said, you shouldn't hear my voice until the end of the show. And I was cool with that.
Yeah.
But so when he sent me home with the scat vocals, I loved it. And then he came up with lyrics, and he did a version with lyrics. But I had fallen in love with the scat vocal version because I listened to it constantly.
Yeah.
And I listened to it as I was writing. I was still writing then.
Wow.
So I asked him, can we keep the scat vocal version and find a place to put it? And he said, not the way I gave it to you. You got to let me redo it. So he redid it with a little more form to it.
Right.
Although he left it ragged because I wanted him to. Then I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make an intermission. I'm going to let you just listen to him.
Yeah.
And look at the word intermission while you listen to him. That's how it happened.
That's cool.
Well, I didn't expect this to win any awards at all. I kind of did it all wrong. It was sort of an experiment to see if you don't promote anything, you don't even tell anybody it exists until it exists, and just see if anybody comes to watch it. What'll happen? And I expected for nothing to happen, but it was very good. It went well. I had a great cast, and they're like a family to me now. We literally played a family, and they felt like when Alan Alda and Steve Buscemi and Edie Falco and Jessica Lange, all amazing, and they really worked so hard every day in that studio to make that show for the growing people who watched it. Anyway, you probably never have you seen it. You should see it. It's called Horace and Pete.
It's very good. I want to thank Blair Briard, who's here somewhere. Blair, you stand up, please? That's Blair. She's produced it, and she made the whole thing happen. And if you are making television or film, you should hire her. She's great. I really thank you very much for this, and I'm honored to be on the same stage that Ira Glass was on, because I've been listening to him for a long time, and he's great. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate it.